whom he was enamoured, and by whom he had a son who married an intrepid lady pharmacist, who was none other than the niece of an unknown fourth-class petty officer of the Royal Navy, and whose adopted father had an aunt who spoke Spanish fluently, and who was, perhaps, one of the granddaughters of an engineer who died young, himself the grandson of the owner of a vineyard which produced mediocre wine, but who had a second cousin, a stay-at-home, a sergeant major, whose son had married a very pretty young woman, a divorcee, whose first husband was the son of a loyal patriot, who, in the hope of making his fortune, had managed to bring up one of his daughters so that she could marry a footman who had known Rothschild, and whose brother, after having changed his trade several times, married and had a daughter whose stunted great-grandfather wore spectacles which had been given to him by a cousin of his, the brother-in-law of a man from Portugal, natural son of a miller, not too badly off, whose foster brother had married the daughter of a former country doctor, who was himself a foster brother of the son of a forester, himself the natural son of another country doctor, married 3 times in a row, whose third wife...
I knew that third wife. She sitting on a hornet's nest.
It's not the same one. As I was saying, whose third wife was the daughter of the best midwife in the region, and who, early left the widow,
Like my wife,
had married a glazier who was full of life, and who had, by the daughter of a station master, a child who had burnt his bridges.
His bridges?
No.
his bridge game.
And had married an oyster woman, whose father had a brother, mayor of a small town, who had taken as his wife a blonde schoolteacher, whose cousin, a fly fisherman,
Fly by night.
had married another blonde schoolteacher named Marie too, whose brother was married to another Marie, also a blonde schoolteacher.
Since she's blonde, she must be Marie.
And whose father had been reared in Canada by an old woman who was the niece of a priest whose grandmother, occasionally in the winter, like everyone else, caught a cold.
Curious story, almost unbelievable.